That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, guys, honestly, I'm kind of surprised with how much positive feedback we got on that last stream where people love the idea of us going and only answering general chat questions for the first 10 to 15 minutes. So that is something we are definitely going to do every single stream from here on out, because I know not everyone's able to donate to get their question answered. I know not everyone is able to hang out with me until 1 a.m. to get their question answered. So guys, if that is you, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You have the bell on next to the subscribe button. That's the most important part, because then you're going to be notified whenever we go live. You can join the stream and be one of the first people in there. And then if that happens, I will most likely be able to get to your question. But yeah, thank y'all all so much for the great support. I will be live streaming tonight after the game, and then Friday and Saturday night at 9 p.m. Central, and on Sunday morning as well. Now, lastly, just want to remind y'all, please guys, if y'all have not already, drop a like on the video. Y'all have been killing the videos in terms of likes. Yeah. And also, sorry, one more announcement. I saw in the comments that y'all wanted me to bring back my record. I have been including it in the live stream. It's a consistent banner on our live stream. Just figured it was hard to do without a blackboard behind me. I just figured at the beginning of the video, I'm going to have it flash across the screen just because y'all said y'all wanted it. And I know that not everyone is going to be able to participate in the live streams. Okay. Now, that's enough of the announcements. Let's get into 5 wide receivers that I think you should be selling before week 7 kickoff. So the first wide receiver is Brandin Cooks. Now, if y'all been following the channel for years now, I know most of y'all have not. I just want to let y'all know that I loved Brandin Cooks back in New Orleans, back in New England, back in Los Angeles, and now he's in Houston. And I know Brandin Cooks the past 2 weeks has looked legit. He looks like this wide receiver that is going to be a consistent high-end wide receiver 2 for us. But I'm here to kind of just throw a wet blanket on the situation. Because when we are looking at Brandin Cooks, yes, this is a wide receiver that operates primarily as a field stretcher, and that's honestly been a nice role to have on this Houston Texans offense since Deshaun Watson took over as starting quarterback, because Deshaun Watson is a quarterback that does not look to check the ball down. He either scrambles to add more time, and then instead of running the ball like most run-first quarterbacks, he actually just looks far downfield to see if his field stretchers have been able to clear the safeties, and then he's willing to take those shots, even if it's a 50-50 ball. And that's what we would love to see for Brandin Cooks. But I just want to come in and talk about that with the questions I've received about Brandin Cooks in the live streams lately. I think that people may just be a little overconfident in what we are going to expect, because still, I promise y'all, Will Fuller is the #1 target on this offense. I've been on this train the entire season where Will Fuller has been an auto start player for us every single week that he's healthy, and I think he's going to continue to see the majority of targets in Houston down the stretch. I think that because Brandin Cooks is that prototypical field stretcher, he is actually going to be a little bit more volatile, where yes, his big weeks are going to be massive, but he is going to have some dips coming here shortly, and with those dips, we are just going to naturally see his fantasy football value decrease. So after 2 very strong performances, I think that maybe it's time to not just sell him for anything you can get. You definitely have to just test out the waters. Just send a message in your fantasy football group chat and say, hey, I'm looking to sell Brandin Cooks, send me offers. And then just kind of gauge what your league is thinking about him. Obviously not a player that we are feeling like we need to get him off our roster this week, like a Mike Davis, Todd Gurley, or Kenyon Drake. This is a little bit more patient. I want to let y'all know as well, with Brandin Cooks, one problem is that with the entire concussion history that he's had throughout the NFL, I think that we are just going to have to understand, one shot to the head and Brandin Cooks could be out for the entire season. Now, that's not something that's going to drastically change our view on him for 2020, but it's something that we have to be aware of. Okay, now our next wide receiver, I honestly did not even think that I would have to include this guy on this list. I kind of figured people understood that he was just a waiver wire wide receiver and never going to be anything more than a high-end wide receiver 4, low-end wide receiver 3, but Tim Patrick. Guys, why are y'all falling into the Tim Patrick trap? This is another field stretcher. This is another guy that took advantage of Noah Fant's absence in this offense, that Jerry Jeudy was severely limited coming back, that KJ Hamler is out of this offense. So knowing that Noah Fant's going to come back, Noah Fant could very easily be the number one target for this Denver Broncos team, knowing that Jerry Jeudy is going to continue to progress. And guys, we knew not to start Jerry Jeudy last week. We knew that Bill Belichick usually tends to scheme away the opposing offense's number one weapon. That was Jerry Jeudy. So we knew that we wanted to avoid Jeudy, play Patrick. But guys, it's a different situation going forward. The Denver Broncos are not going to end up playing the New England Patriots every single week. So Jerry Jeudy is going to come on. I think that we are going to see down the stretch Jerry Jeudy as well out-target Tim Patrick. And knowing that they invested a second-round pick into KJ Hamler in the 2020 NFL Draft, and KJ Hamler was quite possibly the second fastest player in this draft class, only behind Henry Ruggs. We did not get that official testing measurement just because he was injured during the combine. I think that Tim Patrick is going to see his snaps drastically fall down. And on top of that, I think Tim Patrick is going to see his targets drastically fall down. And knowing that this is a wide receiver that's consistently getting deep shots and not necessarily a ton of usage underneath and over the middle, I think that we are just going to view him as a highly volatile player anyway. So guys, just don't fall into it with Tim Patrick. If you can get anything, I'm willing to sell him, because Noah Fant and Jerry Jeudy are both going to out-target him. And I think once KJ Hamler comes on strong, we're going to see KJ Hamler out-snap him. Now, our next player, I got a ton of nice DMs about. I got a ton of nice tweets sent my way just because I told a lot of people to start him last week. But Christian Kirk. Guys, now with Christian Kirk, I don't want to act like I was very smart for telling you to start him last week. Yes, it worked out greatly, but y'all know we always talk about process over results. And honestly, looking back at the results, they were fantastic. I don't know about the process though, because if we look at the process here, Christian Kirk only saw about 2 or 3 targets this past week, and we know that is not something that you can rely on top end production from. That's not something you can even rely on wide receiver 3 production from. So while Christian Kirk provided us that massive blow up game, I don't think that his role on this offense has changed, and his role is what we need to see changed if we want to rely on this player consistently. They are giving Larry Fitzgerald, who so far has been extremely inefficient, like one of the most inefficient wide receivers in the NFL per advanced metrics. If you just look at what he's done so far in 2020, they're giving him way too many snaps. We need to end up seeing Kirk play the slot role. We need to see Andy Isabella play the Kirk role right now, because Christian Kirk is operating as the field stretcher for this Arizona Cardinals offense. I know, not something that any of us thought he was going to be coming into the NFL. He really profiles as a slot guy coming out of Texas A&M. And guys, with Kirk, I know it was a great game. I think that personally, he's a great talent. I invested into him coming into the season, but I still think we have to understand, getting 2 or 3 targets, not something we can rely on. He's having a role just like every other one of these wide receivers we've talked about so far, where he is just stretching the field. And I want to see him in the slot. I want to see him running more routes underneath, because those routes underneath are going to be something we can consistently rely on, where those deep shots are just going to be very, very inconsistent. Now, our next wide receiver, I'm going to get a ton of hate for this, but the wide receiver 2 in Minnesota is Adam Thielen. Guys, if you look at the past 4 weeks, if you look at weeks 3, 4, 5, and 6, ever since they transitioned Justin Jefferson to the outside for this offense, we knew that at the beginning of the year, he was actually running a ton of routes in the slot. That's where we saw him operate at for LSU. And really, he was just not able to get it going there. I personally don't know the answer of why, but it does not matter, because as soon as they transitioned him over to the outside, running a full route tree in week 3, we've seen Justin Jefferson be the wide receiver 1 overall in points per game for this Minnesota Vikings offense. I mean, just absolutely insane what he's been able to do at 21 years old. So now looking at Adam Thielen, this is going to cause the question, what can we expect from him going forward? I know that everyone wants to still say that Adam Thielen is the wide receiver 1 in this offense, and I'm willing to say, oh, okay, guys, sure. For the next 2 or 3 weeks, we can say that Adam Thielen projects confidently to have more targets than Justin Jefferson. But what about down the stretch? What about in the fantasy football playoffs? When Jefferson has a full NFL season under his belt, this is a wide receiver that's only 21 years old, and he's already going and putting up elite level production. Do you really think that he's not going to surpass Adam Thielen? Because he's looked like he already did the past month. I'm fine saying it hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen eventually. And obviously, we're not too worried about a wide receiver 2 on an offense if that offense is going to be highly prolific, if that offense is going to want to throw the ball a ton. But that's not Minnesota. Minnesota wants to run the ball. So please, guys, go sell Adam Thielen while you can. I understand he does have a decent floor. I just think that now Jefferson, whenever he's balling, Thielen is not going to have that same type of ceiling that he had prior. Now, our last wide receiver, I'm not going to spend too much time on him, but I just think that this is going to be an interesting guy that we can go and trade for possibly a Terry McLaurin or a DJ Chark. And I just wanted to bring him up because I know most people would prefer to have him over those two guys, but I think we would much prefer having our targets, and this is Tyler Boyd. Now with Tyler Boyd, yes, I understand. Just he's been consistent year over year for us. He was actually the wide receiver 7 in targets in 2019. But after seeing him go out and play in a game where both AJ Green and T. Higgins got a ton of production, I think that floor that we've come to expect from Tyler Boyd just may not necessarily be there if we continue to see T. Higgins emerge in this offense. So knowing that we have those two strong trade targets for us this week in Terry McLaurin and DJ Chark, knowing you can most likely get either one of those guys by trading away Tyler Boyd, it's kind of no-brainer here. It's not that much against Tyler Boyd. I just really want to give y'all an example of what we are looking to trade for Chark and McLaurin. But thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed the video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, if y'all did, please make sure you go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and I will see you in the live stream tonight.